Trump warns that Hamas has 3 to 4 days to respond to his Gaza peace proposal. Russia voices hope Trump's Gaza peace plan could advance peace across the Middle East. And the European Commission proposes a reparations loan to Ukraine. You're watching Q News at 8 with me, Henny Saif, and in the news today, the White House has unveiled a comprehensive 20-point framework to end the Gaza war and shape the territory's future. Following the Washington talks, the White House revealed the details of a new 20-point proposal outlining Gaza's post-war roadmap. It envisions Hamas disarming, the formation of a technocratic Palestinian administration under international supervision, and a staged Israeli withdrawal linked to security milestones. The plan also proposes a board of peace chaired by President Trump to oversee reconstruction and governance, while explicitly ruling out any Israeli annexation of Gaza. Netanyahu described the plan as a significant step forward, while Hamas has yet to respond. And US President Donald Trump has warned that Hamas has 3 to 4 days to respond to his Gaza peace proposal. Trump said, "We're just waiting for Hamas," warning that refusal would lead to a very sad end. He dismissed the possibility of substantial negotiations, noting there was not much room for changes. US President emphasized that his plan, unveiled yesterday, represents a final opportunity to end the Gaza war, release detainees, and open the path towards broader Middle East peace.
But the only way we can do that is through strength. I mean, if we were weak, they wouldn't even take my phone call, but we have extreme strength.
An Egyptian security source has confirmed that Egypt and Qatar delivered Washington's Gaza ceasefire proposal to Hamas, which said it was reviewing the plan positively and objectively. That came as Israeli media reported the mediators formally handed over Trump's plan. Earlier, the White House, with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, US President Donald Trump hailed a historic day for Middle East peace, crediting Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi and regional states for shaping the proposal. Trump said the plan aims to end the Gaza war, ensure detainees release within 72 hours, and open new regional prosperity. Foreign ministers from 7 regional nations have welcomed President Donald Trump's leadership and peace proposal to end the war in Gaza. Top diplomats from Egypt, Jordan, the UAE, Indonesia, Pakistan, Turkey, Saudi Arabia and Qatar voiced confidence in Trump's ability to chart a path towards peace, praising his plan to end the war, rebuild Gaza, prevent the displacement of Palestinians and hold any annexation of the West Bank. The ministers affirmed their commitment to work with the United States and all parties to finalize and implement a comprehensive agreement that ensures unrestricted humanitarian aid, the release of detainees, a full Israeli withdrawal, and the creation of a secure environment for all sides. They also reiterated support for a two-state solution that unites Gaza and the West Bank under a Palestinian state as the foundation for regional peace and stability. Qatari Foreign Ministry spokesman Majid al-Ansari has announced that Qatar and Egypt delivered U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan to Hamas, which pledged to study it but deemed it too early to respond. Al-Ansari noted that Trump confirmed Israeli acceptance of the plan, emphasizing that success requires consensus among all parties and that Qatari, Egyptian and Turkish efforts are proceeding in coordinated unity. He praised U.S. commitment to ending the war and stressed Doha's goal of halting conflict and famine in Gaza. The Kremlin has expressed hope that U.S. President Donald Trump's Gaza peace plan would help bring peace to the Middle East. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said Russia is not involved in the plan and has received no communication from the U.S. about it. Trump recently secured Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu's support for the proposal, but Hamas's acceptance remains uncertain. The UK urges Israel to end moral obscenity in Gaza and calls on Hamas to free detainees. British Foreign Minister Yvette Cooper has called on Israel to end what she described as the moral obscenity of its Gaza campaign, accusing the government of denying Palestinians food, water and medicine. Speaking at the Labour Party conference in Liverpool, Cooper also urged Hamas to release all detainees, condemning what she called the calculated cruelty that has torn families apart for nearly 2 years. And for more on this, we now move to Rana Al-Assas in our newsroom. Rana.
Thank you so much, Hani Saif. And for further analysis, we're joined from Ramallah by spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah, Ahmed Fattouh. Welcome to Qnews, sir, and it's a pleasure to have you with us. To what extent is President Trump's 20-point Gaza peace framework workable, given entrenched Palestinian distrust and claims that it is a priority that Israeli interests are over Palestinian rights, sir?
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Of course, the priority now is to stop this genocide, to stop the atrocities, to allow the full entry of aid, and to end the misery that Israel inflicted on the Palestinian people immediately. The plan, of course, needs further discussion. There's some points that still need to be clarified. But in any case, we will come all sincere efforts to go for peace and to end the genocide that is ongoing in Gaza Strip and go into within a framework of peace that's based on the two-state solution, where ensures the Palestinians' right to self-determination and for a state united between West Bank and Gaza Strip under one Palestinian authority by a Palestinian authority.
Sir, what does Netanyahu's insistence on retaining a military presence across much of Gaza imply for the plan's credibility as a genuine peace roadmap?
Sorry, I didn't hear you quite correctly.
Okay, sir, I'll repeat the question. What does Netanyahu's insistence on retaining a military presence across much of Gaza imply for the plan's credibility as a genuine peace roadmap?
Well, of course, the plan, must address the full withdrawal of the Israeli occupation. It does touch that, but on stages. But it remains controlling borders and some buffering zones in Gaza. That is not with the international law, that is illegal. We have expressed our acceptance for an international mission by international forces, whether by the Arabs or international forces, to safeguard the peace and safeguard the ceasefire and to protect the Palestinian civilians from the atrocities of Israel. That is a way that we accept and we understand that should take place. And we hope that the plan would address the full withdrawal of Israel within a timeline and to define the political process and the framework to go in a two-state solution for an end to for a lasting peace, because we have to admit the fact that without giving Palestinians their rights of independence and sovereignty, that does not touch a lasting peace. That is only a waste of time.
Sir, how does the frustration of displaced Palestinians highlight wider concerns over self-determination? And can any peace initiative succeed without confronting these issues directly?
Without self-determination, there is no peace, practically. So it's an unavoidable issue that must be touched. Now we have welcomed the plan as a way to end the genocide, as a advanced step forward that should be followed by further steps to enhance and to improve that plan. Of course, the plan misses a lot of details, does not touch all aspects that is important for the final resolution to the conflict. That is needed to be added, that is needed to more discussed further. That's not a political dialogue. But first and foremost, the first important step that was taken, which is calling for the ending of the genocide and blocking any annexation plans or displacement plans. That is the important part, which we could build on. The further parts and the further details need discussions and need the incorporation of the Palestinian Liberation Organization, the legitimate Palestinian Authority. We rely on the Arab voice and the Muslim voice, and of course in our partners in Europe who have expressed the importance of incorporating the Palestinian Authority and the importance of reaching as just and a peace based on a two-state solution to begin this process. After we accept the fact that Hamas needs to step down from governance, we accept that Hamas must handle its weapons to the Palestinian Authority, but there must be a Palestinian legitimacy and a Palestinian ruling, self-ruling and self-determination on the lands of Palestine.
Sir, could U.S. assurances that Israel may, quote, finish the job, unquote, if Hamas rejects the deal, fuel escalation rather than foster peace?
Without an international guarantee and without an international safeguarding this peace plan, Israel could do always to sabotage any peace in the future. We have experience with that. And we know for a fact that they don't actually commit to any deals in the past. So if the United States is pretty serious about it, they have to fulfill the term that say they want to guarantee the success of the ceasefire. And we hope that Hamas also accept this plan as a way to end this genocide, because we have been suffering. Of course, there's many points that need to be enhanced. That is a matter of discussion and a political discussion, a broader discussion with the partners, with the regional states. But now let's stop the war, let's stop the genocide, let's end this displacement scheme and go forward into a political approach within the framework of Palestinian independence on 1967 borders.
Sir, how pivotal is the backing of regional players like Egypt, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar to Trump's plan? And can their engagement help narrow the trust gap between Palestinians and Washington?
It's vital, of course. The Arab world and the Islamic world actually did a lot of work. They united their efforts and they have united their decisions and positions in order to reach this moment. Of course, it's the first step. It should not be considered as the final paper, because in fact does not touch major issue, the final solution issues, the settlements, the Jerusalem, the refugees, all of that. So that details that need more discussions, need more political incorporation of all the partners. Now, of course, the Arab have more influence in Trump to further enhance that deal. And it is important that this deal satisfy Palestinian aspiration. Otherwise, it remains an occupation, and when it remains, that make it, always a formula for further escalation.
That was Ahmed Fattouh from Ramallah, the spokesperson of the Palestinian National Liberation Movement, Fatah. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us on Q News. And now we go back to my dear colleague Hani Saif in our studios. Hani.
Thank you, Rana. Warehouses of the Jordan Hashemite charity organization are overflowing with humanitarian aid bound for Gaza as Israeli restrictions continue to block its delivery. In the city of Zarqa, stacks of baby formula, blankets, tents and essential goods remain stranded, awaiting clearance to cross into Gaza amid tightening border controls. JHCO Secretary General Hussein Shibli said the closure of the Allenby Bridge, the main crossing between Jordan and the Israeli-occupied West Bank, has severely disrupted aid operations. Israel shut the bridge on September 23rd after a driver transporting aid opened fire and killed 2 Israeli soldiers, later reopening it to passenger traffic only. The crossing is a key lifeline for Palestinians and a major conduit for commercial goods and humanitarian aid. Its closure means convoys carrying vital supplies, including food and shelter materials, can no longer reach the Strip. Russian President Vladimir Putin said Moscow's forces are prevailing in what he called a righteous battle in Ukraine, vowing to continue the fight as the war drags on. President Vladimir Putin has declared that Russian forces are prevailing in what he described as a righteous battle in Ukraine, praising troops and for advancing and defending the country's historical destiny. The war, now in its 3rd year, shows no sign of ending despite diplomatic efforts led by US President Donald Trump, who has held separate summits with Putin, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, and European leaders. The Kremlin has stated that many people in Ukraine's Odessa and Mykolaiv regions wish to link their fate to Russia, but are afraid to openly express this view. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov responded to questions about possible referendums, noting that danger for locals who might support joining Russia is present. Peskov also urged Europe to pursue dialogue with Russia on security issues instead of building a divisive drone wall. Russia has warned it is closely analyzing whether the United States will supply Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine, calling the move a potential game changer that could sharply escalate the war. Russia said it is studying the possibility of the United States supplying the Tomahawk cruise missiles to Ukraine. The remarks came after U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said Washington is considering Kiev's request for the long-range missiles, which can travel up to 2,500 kilometers, enough to reach Moscow from Ukrainian territory. President Donald Trump has yet to make a final decision, but is reportedly frustrated by Vladimir Putin's refusal to agree to a ceasefire following their Alaska summit last month. The European Commission proposed a reparations loan to Ukraine backed by frozen Russian assets, with part of the funds directed to European defense procurement. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said a proposed reparations loan to Ukraine, supported by the frozen Russian assets, would help defend fund the defense procurement within Europe. She stressed the plan does not involve seizing Russian assets and that Ukraine would repay the loan if Moscow pays reparations. Speaking alongside NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, von der Leyen also urged a strong and united response to Russian drone incursions by building a drone wall along the EU's eastern flank as part of the Eastern Flank Watch.
And we will strengthen our own defense industry by ensuring that
At a landmark gathering of U.S. military leaders in Quantico, U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has denounced decades of decay caused by diversity and inclusion policies, declaring the Pentagon had become the woke department. He condemned overweight officers and pledged stricter grooming and male-only fitness standards, insisting the era of unprofessional appearance is over. U.S. President Donald Trump, set to address the assembled generals and admirals later, promised to affirm support for America's top commanders in the first-of-its-kind meeting.
It's tiring to look out at combat formations, or really any formation, and see fat troops. Likewise, it's completely unacceptable to see fat generals and admirals in the halls of the Pentagon and leading commands around the country and the world. It's a bad look. It is bad, and it's not who we are. So whether you're an airborne ranger or a chairborne ranger.
Nokosi Nathi Emmanuel Nathi Matiwa, South Africa's ambassador to France, has been found dead on Tuesday at the foot of a Paris high-rise hotel. The 58-year-old envoy was discovered below a Hyatt hotel where he had booked a room on the 22nd floor. Authorities noted the secure window in his room had been forced open. Metitwa's wife reported him missing on Monday after receiving a disturbing message from him. South Africa's foreign ministry expressed deep sorrow and profound regret, with the foreign minister, Ronald Lamola, calling his death a national and international loss. Matitwa was appointed ambassador to France in December 2023. YouTube, owned by Alphabet, has agreed to pay $24.5 million to settle a lawsuit brought by U.S. President Donald Trump over the suspension of his account following the January 2021 Capitol riots. Trump celebrated the settlement on his Truth Social account, calling it a massive victory against big tech censorship. The settlement makes Google the last of the major tech firms alongside Meta and X to resolve lawsuits Trump filed in 2021, accusing them of silencing conservative voices. Under the deal, $22 million will go to the Trust for the National Mall, supporting a ballroom Trump is building at the White House. U.S. government is facing shutdown within 36 hours, as warned by Vice President J.D. Vance. The U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has warned that the federal government is headed to a shutdown in less than 36 hours, accusing congressional Democrats of blocking a short-term funding bill by attaching political conditions. Vance said disagreements over tax provisions should not be used as a pretext to halt essential government services, urging lawmakers to act swiftly to avoid a shutdown.
And to shut down the government unless we give you everything that you want. There were multiple times where
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro is poised to declare state of emergency over what he described as U.S. aggression. Maduro is preparing to declare state of emergency in response to the U.S. aggression, Vice President Delcy Rodriguez said at a press conference. She claimed Maduro had signed a decree granting him special powers to act on national defense and security after a series of deadly U.S. strikes on suspected Venezuelan drug boats. However, a government source told the press that the decree has not yet been signed, leaving the timing of the move uncertain. Global leaders wrapped up the 80th United Nations General Assembly debate with strong calls to end wars, tackle famine, and address rising gender-based violence. In her closing remarks, General Assembly President Annalena Baerbock said 189 member states took part in the debate, including 124 heads of state and government, with peace and security dominating the discussions. She stressed that nations must do more to stop the spread of conflict, protect and feed starving civilians in Gaza, restore peace in Ukraine, and safeguard women and girls in Sudan. Baerbock described moments of energy and shared will among delegations to choose the right path at what she called a global crossroad, as world leaders also discussed UN reform, financial restructuring, and the organization's future role as it marks its 80th anniversary. North Korea says it will never surrender its nuclear arsenal, but insists diplomacy is still possible. Addressing the United Nations General Assembly, North Korean Vice Foreign Minister Kim Song-gyong said Pyongyang's nuclear weapons are essential to its sovereignty and survival, warning that any demand for denuclearization amounts to stripping the country of its constitutional right to exist. However, Kim added that North Korea remains open to dialogue, signaling a potential diplomatic path forward despite ongoing tensions over its weapons program. Clashes erupt in Pakistan-administered Kashmir amid anti-government protests. Violent clashes broke out in Muzaffarabad, the capital of Pakistan-administered Kashmir, as demonstrators took to the streets demanding sweeping structural reforms. Local reports say more than a dozen people were injured in the unrest, with footage showing one protester being carried away on a stretcher. The situation remains tense as authorities brace for further demonstrations. Police in Madagascar fired tear gas at protesters at Antananarivo as youth-led demonstrations over water and power cuts entered a third day, leaving at least 22 people dead. Police in Madagascar's capital, Antananarivo, fired tear gas as citizens returned to the streets for a third round of youth-led protests against chronic water and power cuts, with many calling for President Andrea Rajoelina's resignation. The unrest, inspired by Gen Z movements in Kenya and Nepal, has become the largest demonstrations in years, the most serious challenge to Rajoelina since his 2023 re-election. At least 22 people have been killed since the protests began on Thursday, with the UN Human Rights Office blaming a violent response by security forces. Authorities have imposed a dusk-to-dawn curfew in the capital as tensions continue to rise. China's toy industry is racing to recreate viral Labubu phenomenon. Chinese artists and toy companies are rushing to replicate the global success of Labubu, the ugly, cute doll, driving Pop Mart towards a $4 billion in revenue this year. Independent artist Runyo, creator of Aikido, believes his shy, introverted character could be the next viral hit, while rival firm Sigo Works says its pouty, angry Amy can compete with Pop Mart's creativity and quality. Industry experts say China's unmatched supply chain, speed to market, and data-driven platforms give it a powerful edge in creating the next global toy sensation. But some artists warn the industry's hype risks overshadowing artistic integrity, with many new art toy IPs seen as little more than mass-produced figures. These were all the news we have for now, but here's a reminder of today's main stories. Trump warns that Hamas has 3 to 4 days to respond to his Gaza peace proposal. Russia voices hope Trump's Gaza peace plan could advance peace across the Middle East. And the European Commission proposes a reparations loan to Ukraine. And by this we come to the end of our news bulletin and broadcast for today. But please don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at Qnews EGY to stay informed. I'm Henny Safe. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more updates here on Q News.